It's finally happening. We have the new Honda Hornets on the channel, and today we're taking a look at the CB750. The Honda Hornet has a special place in my cold black heart. When I was but a baby-faced Harley-riding noob, I saw a red 2007 Honda Hornet, and it was the first time I thought, I have to have that bike. Then I bought one and I realized that yes, Harleys are slow. It's not all of them, but the point remains. It opened my eyes to the world of sport bikes, but the nameplate goes back to the 70s and the UJM craze. The bike was designed to be a big bore roadster, taking cues from an endurance race bike, and weirdly for the time, it was aimed at the European market instead of the USA, which was Honda's big target. It packed a 901cc air-cooled inline 4, putting down 95 horsepower and 57 foot-pounds of torque. It was touted as one of the best bikes Honda had put on the street thus far, with great handling and solid power. The problem was that it was throwing down with the likes of the KZ1000, the GS1000, and the XS1100, all of which made more power. But that's something of a running theme with the Hornets. Fast forward to the Limp Bizkit era. It's 2002, chin strap beards and sideways caps are cool, and everybody is buying leader bikes because you could finance anything for nothing. Cocaine is a hell of a drug, and despite being in grade school at the time, I'm pretty sure the whole world was high. But some people did a little bit less cocaine than everyone else and wanted a bike that was comfortable but still had the power and performance of a supersport. Enter the naked bike. Stripped back versions of 600 and 1000cc super bikes with handlebars, upright ergos, and tuned for torque versus outright power. Everyone in the Big Four was doing it, and Honda was no different. You had the Fireblade and the 919, as well as the CBR 600RR and the 599. Since we're taking a look at the Little Hornet today, we're going to focus on the 599 or the CB600F. It originally dropped in Europe in 1998 with the 599cc inline 4 putting down 95 horsepower and 46 foot-pounds of torque. It came to the States a few years later, and for all intents and purposes, it was the 919 but smaller. It had almost exactly the same lines, including the iconic gas tank that dented if you so much as breathed on it funny. The only thing about the 599 is that it only made power at the top end of the power band, much more like a traditional 600, meaning that everywhere you were going, you had to rev the tits off of it. It got a slight power bump in 2007, making 102 horsepower and 47 foot-pounds of torque, which is nice, but it was still the wrong part of the power band for a real street bike. Honda fixed that when they came out with the CB650, but nowadays you're only considered cool in the motorcycle industry if you have a 270-degree parallel twin naked bike, so Honda, not wanting to be left out, took a phenomenal motor out of the Transalp and decided to make a naked bike with it. Enter the CB750. Yes, we really have come full circle, so not only does this little bike have to live up to the Hornet name, but it has the baggage of arguably the most important sport bike of all time to lug around. The Hornet is packing a 755cc parallel twin, putting down 90 horsepower and 55 foot-pounds of torque while weighing in at 423 pounds. It's got a pile of modern technology and a very reasonable $7,999 price tag. But maybe you don't have that lying around, and looking at the dashboard on your motorcycle makes you sad. You look around at all your buddies with fancy TFT dashes and you're working with the motorcycling equivalent of a TI-84. Good thing Chiji has the solution. They're the best when it comes to aftermarket dashboards. They have the AIO5, which as the name implies, is an all-in-one dashboard with forward and rearward facing dash cams, a full touchscreen display with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, as well as OBD scanner compatibility so you can pull real-time data off your bike. But maybe you have multiple motorcycles with graphing calculators where the dashboard should be, and you don't want to buy a bunch of aftermarket displays. That's where the AIO6 comes in. It's got all the same features as the 5 with a few more, but more importantly, it's removable so you can swap it from bike to bike. I've had an AIO6 on my Harley, and it's been a great way to modernize a classic motorcycle. If you're interested, click that link down in the description below where you can snag yours on the cheap. Now, lest we forget why we're here in the first place, we're looking at a bike that's dropping into a very crowded field. The CB750 has a ton of competition to throw down against. It's got the GSX8S from Suzuki, the KTM Duke 790, the Tuono 660, the Trident 660, Yo Mama, the Z650, the 800NK, the MT07, and Yo Mama again. Seriously, you can't swing a cat without hitting a parallel twin naked bike these days. The question is the CB750 any good? In order to find that out, I sent Whitney on a fact-finding mission to Somewheresville, California to find out.
Alright guys, here we are walking up to the Honda Hornet, the CB750, and my initial impressions are, oh, I like this. What a cute little baby guy. Swinging one leg over, it's super comfy. It's got that classic narrow Honda Hornet waist, big wide buff Honda Wasp like shoulders, really comfy without any adjustment. Everything's pretty easy to reach. I'm being beckoned, but those are my first impressions walking up to it. Start it up. Oh yeah. Throttle feel, I already like what I'm feeling, which is weird because the last Honda I rode didn't give me that same kind of a initial reaction. Okay, right off the bat, I'm loving the throttle feel and I'm loving the clutch feel, even though all I did was get out of a parking lot, which says a lot. I also like the sound, which is not something I anticipated out of a stock bike, but it's got this nice throaty grumble. So there's a lot of pretty gnarly potholes. It feels good. Feels way better than some Harleys I've recently ridden. You know, after riding like a big dog chopper and an R18 and a Honda ruined this bike. This is like a toy. This is like a sweet toy. Yeah, it's punchy. It's super like the throttle is super responsive on deceleration and acceleration, which is making it like, I give this a freaking A+ city ride. Doing lots of stopping and going, lots of potholes. It's kind of like the perfect little downtown route. This is great. This is such a friendly little bike, but like I said, I'm biased right now because the last bikes I rode were behemoths. I want to be naughty on this bike, but it's a press bike, so I also don't want to be naughty on a press bike. The brake feel, like I'm having to kind of jab them because the traffic is kind of gnarly and everybody's going which way. Really, really soft, really almost intuitive kind of pressure and response, which I don't think I've encountered really. It's been a minute. All right, let's get ready for some highway riding. I have a feeling it's gonna do great. All right, we're cruising at 60. Dodging traffic is easy on this bike. The agility translates to the highway, obviously. 5th gear, 65, this feels awesome. It honestly, I thought I'd have to ring it out a little bit more to catch up to highway speeds, but I don't. I'm impressed. I gotta stop saying that, but here's what happens when you get my first impressions is you gotta help me process all the feelings, and honestly I'm probably gonna be in shock for another hour. Starting to feel pretty bouncy on the highway, but we're doing 75, 80, you can tell. Alright, I give this a B+ for my brief highway assessment. Navigating and dodging like the oncoming traffic was superb almost. Oh no, textured road again. And what else? And then cruising, cruising along. I'm not pushing the bike and it feels great. Holy crap, look at this. It's freaking beautiful out here. Lots of traffic, but still just mind-blowingly beautiful. So we finally hit a mountain road, and this is, I was really apprehensive, but this is a confidence building bike. It really is. It is happy out here in the high RPMs, with these long sweepers and we're climbing the Sierra Nevada mountain range right now. And this thing is doing great. It really loves that higher power, being up in the higher power band. So going into turns, I mean, I'm kind of waiting for it to pick up a little bit. This thing is so flickable. This bike is confidence inspiring. It is a really, I mean, I wish I would have started on this bike. This would be a good beginner bike. I don't feel like it's too much for a newer rider to handle. And it's got massive versatility on the road. I mean, just in this short amount of time I've had it, we've done highway, twisty roads, city, and I so far have no complaints, except for one. I have one complaint, and that was after 2 hours of riding, my butt hurts, and my butt hurts bad. I would just get an aftermarket seat right away, because this thing will make your butt hurt. So I love the way that it handles these curves, because it's not doing it for you, and it's not intuitive, but you're not fighting it either. It's super agile. It makes it super flickable. I don't know what the rake is, but yeah, this feels great. This is actually honestly the most I've leaned, and I'm sure Spike can attest to this by watching the footage, on a bike before. That's how, you know, I'm not a canyon carver at all, but it's very easy on this bike. It's torquey, but not too torquey. You know, I'm not getting any sort of aggressive jolting. I love the long power band is really great. It's happy to blast off in these on the straighter parts of the road. It's like not too perky and not too aggressive. It's almost like the Goldilocks zone a little bit. Like, this is, yeah, easy. I also wasn't too sure about how the throttle by wire was gonna feel. Like, if it was gonna feel too robotic, or I don't know. I get worried about things, character being waxed away by electronic features like throttle by wire, but that's that's really like a novice opinion. Even picking up speed here, it's, gosh, am I giving it an A right now? So far, initial twisty road impressions, it's getting an A. I do wonder, I was reading on Cycle World that the American releases of both Hornets are detuned, I'm guessing for emissions reasons. Opening this up, that is the first thing I would do. I'm really curious to see what would happen, because I can kind of tell it's like, oh man, what would a tune and a pipe do to this baby? I'm wondering why, and Spike can cut in and tell me why, but why is this more flickable than the MT09 SP?
Now, it's tough for me to say exactly what is making this motorcycle feel more flickable than the MT09 SP. There's so many factors between these two motorcycles, and obviously I have yet to ride the CB750 myself. However, I did look at the specs online, and there are a few factors that could be making that happen. Most importantly, I probably would reckon that the handlebars are just a little bit wider. Really setting up your handlebars properly for you makes a motorcycle feel so much better. It's shocking how much of a difference that can make. Secondly, we have a smaller rear tire. We're dealing with a 180 on the MT09 and a 160 on the Hornet. Now, a smaller rear tire is going to make it feel like it wants to tip in just a little bit faster, because a wider rear tire is a little bit more progressive. It feels like it's rolling to the side a little bit more, less darting. Think about it like this. If you've ever ridden a bike with a 240 section rear tire, it feels like you have infinite grip, and when it's rolling side to side, it really feels like a pendulum. It's not quick side to side, but it's very stable, versus something that's balancing more on a knife's edge. It's just gonna dip right in. It is slightly lighter than the MT09, but only by a couple of pounds. My guess is that it's a combination of all of these factors, and like Whitney said, less power. You are gonna feel so much more confident if you're not used to a lot of power on a smaller power motorcycle. Even 10 horsepower makes a difference, trust me.
But yeah, no, this bike can lean, and it can lean with grace. I've had no scary moments on this bike so far. Day's not over yet. I'm sure you just heard it in the vlog, but this is more fun than the MT09 SP, which is silly. It's silly. And it's $7,999. We'll say that. I want to call it 8, but we'll call it 7.9. Damn, that's a good deal. All right, guys, mounting up on this. I'm 5'9", but this is super easy. Both my feet touch. They feel really planted, and also it's nice and lightweight. I like this narrow cutout right here. It doesn't feel too top heavy, which I think is really, really crucial for being confident in the curves, especially on these mountain roads. I hate to say it, but this might be a really good beginner bike. All right, guys, we're leaving this stop. We're gonna do a little bit more twisties and carve up some more roads, mountain roads, and secretly wonder if I should trade in my Smart Peel 701 for a CB750. Even in like a pseudo food coma, it's no problem. It's no problem moving this bike around. Love the brake feel, not too grabby. I'm sorry I keep comparing this to the MT09, but I just rode one. So I don't know, it's like nice to have less aggressive features, especially, I don't know, if you're not pushing it in the mountains and you're just having fun. And that's it, ladies and gentlemen. What a fun ride. Really impressed. I also had a revelation on the highway coming back. So the front end was feeling extremely squirrely, but we were doing about 85. And then I realized I think this is rated at like 30 miles an hour or less. So this may have been, it was also super, super windy. So a combination of high wind plus high speeds, this was probably the reason why the front end was feeling as squirrely as it did, is my guess. So I've just finished a full day in the saddle of the Honda Hornet CB750. We did mountain roads, we did highway, we did city, we did super twisty. I mean, we really covered all types of riding, and I love this bike. This is honestly making me reconsider all the bikes I've ever picked and realizing, like, why didn't I just start here to become a better rider instead of buying all these really fancy, gigantic bikes and learning bad habits on. This is a great, especially if you're like a older beginner rider, this is a great bike. It's even fun for seasoned riders. There's a lot of us on 750s today having fun on this bike. I'm super impressed. And the algorithm is watching you, and they think that you're gonna like this video next.